When looking at colleges, I always ask students to first look within and self-assess. And so you can see these words up here: identity, intellect, ideas, interests, and inspiration. Okay? I want them to be self-reflective. I think any college guidance office, this is where they start as well. And there's different ways of getting to this. I'm not saying that this is the only way. By far, it's not. But let me give you how this could help you with the actual process later on. Identity. How do you see yourself and how do others see you? You're going to have to ask 2 teachers to write a letter of recommendation. So who should you ask? How do they see me? What are they going to communicate and convey to the college admission offices? Intellect. How do you think and approach the acquisition of knowledge? Curriculum. How does this then connect to the college curriculum that we're going to talk about? How does this connect to the size of the college I should look at? Ideas. What do you think and why? This is really tough. I was with a parent the other night. We were doing a session in New Haven. I was just like, if you could talk about anything, what would it be? And this one person was like, basically public policy. Let's talk about public policy. It's like, great, let's talk about that. What are your ideas? How does this help you for an alumni interview? How many of you interview for Penn or your alma mater? Okay? Thank you for doing that. You have to go into that interview with an alumnus of a school thinking about what you want to talk about. You have to be knowledgeable about that school, but they also want to get into your mind and see what you're interested in, what your ideas are. So really think about those things. You cannot write a college essay on December 31st at 11 o'clock at night. But more importantly, you have to have this content down. You need to be thinking about it well in advance. Interests. What do you choose to do when you have the time and flexibility? My favorite example of this is, how many of you travel? Travel? Get on planes a lot? Okay. What's your greatest fear on that? Maybe I should have you write that down. All the batteries on all your devices just died. And I'm flying to Mumbai and it's a 15-hour flight from Newark. Okay? What am I going to do? There's a bookstore, right? Hudson Books is right there. Hudson News, whatever it's called, is right there. Okay? And I'm going to pick up some magazines. What's the first section of that store do you go to? Where do you gravitate towards? And you don't have any AP homework, or you're not writing an exam or a paper. What are your interests? So think about that. I think this is a way for students to really think about what they're interested in. Okay, so for the interviewers, inspiration, what really motivates you? I think the hardest thing for some children is, am I really passionate about anything? I mean, I like what I do, and it's like, what is this passion thing that I have to write about and these colleges are expecting? And they may not be able to articulate it, but there are those things, academically, socially, throughout their lives, that make their heart beat a little faster. What happens between classes? I walked right in here, I noticed the scooters, because I have younger children, and I noticed the music room right when you walk in. When you go onto a college campus, just like I said on the Today Show about going into the libraries, be aware. Be mindful of what's around you. Be mindful of what's in front of you. But I asked the students, what is life like in your school between classes? So now I'm not talking about the classroom, I'm talking about the hallway. The next ring out that I asked them to think about is really kind of the co-curricular areas. So the music room, what are they engaging in and how is that organized after school? So for your children, what does that look like when you're making that next ring out? And it's going to be the same as you take a look at colleges. Then I have one other question for them. If I'm starting from the classroom, I'm going to the hallways, then I'm going to basically the after-school program, where do you think I'm going to go now? What is it like to live in New York City? Or, oh, I commute in. It takes me an hour and a half. Okay. What I'm asking them is, how is your environment impacting you? What does that awareness look like for you? How is that shaping some of the options and choices that you have? The next step, how do you then take these pieces and look at colleges? And what I have here, given that college starts with C, just the 4 C's. Culture, curriculum, community, conclusions. Culture, curriculum, community, conclusions. All right, I'm going to turn this on to all of you for a second. Why should I send my child to Avenues? based on this? Yes? A new worldview, a different way of thinking. And that's going to permeate through every single aspect of what's here. So a new worldview, okay, so that plays out in the culture, that plays out in the curriculum, that plays out in the community that's here, and that plays out in the conclusions, okay? So culture, what is the history and mission of the institution? More importantly, how is it relevant today? You know what, to a 17 or 18-year-old, they might like looking at some old buildings and seeing a statue of someone who they have no idea who it is, unless it's Benjamin Franklin, of course. But how is it relevant to me today? Okay, the curriculum, flexibility, I spoke about that. I want you to look at the design of the curriculum at these colleges just like I looked at the design of the curriculum here. That's what matters. Out of $64,000 a year, that's $47,000. Okay, that's the tuition line. I want to make sure that you're really diving in and understanding the shape of the curriculum in the first 2 years, and then in the second 2 years when students are usually heading into a major or have a little more definition around their course of study. Community to me is shaped by two things, people and physical spaces. So whenever you step onto any college campus and you're doing that tour, and you're doing that I-95 tour, you know, you're starting up here and you're stopping at Princeton and you're stopping in Philly and then Johns Hopkins along the way and off to DC, okay? How do the people and the spaces interact with each other? What are the programs on campus? Penn's college houses, 11 college houses, about 40 themed programs where students can come around kind of their own interests of service, of language, of healthcare, of sport, whatever it is. So conclusions, I think, for many of us as we're looking at colleges should first be how many students go from freshman to sophomore year. 98% at Penn. Graduation after 4 years. Penn's been between 88 to 90%. And I want you to really bring that down to a level, at a human level, because that may not sound very high to you. You could just imagine taking 100 people and seeing whether, you know, maybe for 10 of them, whether something happened in their lives, that maybe they needed to opt out for a semester for any number of reasons. And it's not even usually academics. It's usually life circumstances. Graduation after 5 years, 94%. After 6 years, 96%. Okay, so that commitment, that's part of the conclusions.